It was a very, very emotional funeral, very, very high drama. You were just aware that you were part of a really dramatic final scene.
I always thought that she was a splendid woman, but behind it all, her talent was swamped in an image.
She was a very beautiful person. She was down to earth. She was just a nice person. She was so funny.
And you can make yourself useful and all. I'll have a Tia Maria in a fresh glass.
When the lights go on again.
What set Diana apart from the other actresses that she grew up with was that they all were turned out by the J. Arthur Rank factory. The casting directors and the drama coaches all had an idea of what an English leading lady should be like, you know? And they couldn't do that to Diana. They couldn't pigeonhole her because Diana's personality was so strong that what always came over was Diana Dors.
Well, Miss Hopkins, I've just heard from Mr. Huggett here that you'd like a post with us.
Oh, yes, I'd love that.
Are you used to office routine?
Oh, definitely, Mr. Campbell.
Diana was a very big movie star from, I suppose, the age of 17 or 18 onwards. I guess it was about that time that she began to come under the influence of Dennis Hamilton. And of course, he helped her career in many ways, and he, I should imagine, made her the nearest thing to a Hollywood star that we had.
Imagination is funny.
Although she could have had a different career and a more serious career if she'd wanted to, the career always came second to Diana, according to the man she was with.
Just as
I think she was obsessed with Dennis, especially at the beginning. He certainly had a great hold over her, no question. And he built the image, the blonde bombshell.
Is crazy.
I think she wanted to change from being a glamorous girl to more of a serious actress. And there were times when she regretted this glamour figure, because I think it was stopping her from doing the part she wanted to do.
She was so good in Yield to the Night. And it came as such a surprise to the English film industry that they didn't really know how to handle this talent.
The execution will take place on Thursday morning.
I think had she been in Hollywood at that time, or had she been an American actress, they would have really nurtured her along, and she would have been the tops.
In politics here in the United States, it's usually considered not proper to mention your opponent's name. What we're talking about is Marilyn Monroe.
Well, I gathered that, yes.
Perfectly aware of that.
Yes, I am.
Simply love is just the point of no return.
She came over to do The Unholy Wife. That was in the early 50s. She was instinctively intelligent, which is the most important kind of intelligence, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, something's arriving. One of them doesn't look too bad. Yours, I suppose.
And she was wonderful, but we got to be very good friends, and we went out. And then they tried to make a whole big thing out of us.
There you are.
Thank you.
We'd be very happy to buy a drink.
Thank you again.
Why don't we sit at the table?
But I had the greatest respect for her because she was the type to say, you, I might go to bed with you, never. You know, I mean, there was no kidding around. I like you, I don't like you.
You live here?
No. All my life I've lived north of San Francisco.
What's a San Franciscan doing in Los Angeles?
She didn't have much self-esteem. You see, had she been trained, she could be a far better actress than she ever was allowed to be. I use the word allowed deliberately. Because the people around her, I'm not going to mention names, were merciless the way they used her.
Hamilton had no scruples whatsoever. He loved money, he loved sex, and he loved a good time. And he had Diana to help him achieve all these three things.
I'm on the set, and somebody says, her husband's looking for you. And of course I said, why? Little old me? Why? He comes flying into the dressing room. I don't want to mention his name or anything. And I knew he was famous for carrying a gun. And I'm alone in the dressing room with this guy who doesn't like me at all. You stay away from my wife. I don't like what you're doing, wife. I don't know what you're talking about. We've had dinner, we've had lunches, but I mean, what are you talking about? I'm not trying to take her away from you. You better do that. You better not this. And I said, no, everything is all right. And I'm trying to control it and calm him down. And this is the whole story of actors in a nutshell. You stay away, you stupid actor. Stupid actor! I forgot the gun. You want to step outside? I'll show you who's a stupid. And when he left, I said, holy God, he had a gun. He had a gun. He could have shot me, you know.
The behavior that followed her around didn't help. People resented her. Dennis led them into the most outrageous escapades that even Hollywood has seen in quite a long time. And she didn't overcome it.
What is love without forgiving? Without love, you're only living an imitation of life. Skies above in flaming color. Without love, they're so much duller. A false creation, an imitation of life.
Almost every man seemed to bring her trouble in some way, and maybe that was the attraction. And when Dickie Dawson first met Diana, I think he was a young, struggling comedian in this country, trying to make it. And I don't say that he saw Diana as a meal ticket, but it certainly worked out that way.
I like your tune. How about you?
I like a Gershwin tune. How about you?
In different ways, all of the men had weaknesses. And I think those weaknesses were exaggerated because of the fact that they were living in the shadow of somebody who was a great star. They all became Mr. Dors. He went over to Hollywood with her after they'd married. She bought the big house. It was through her that he got into television. And then as the relationship began to falter, so he became a recluse and totally cut off from her. And Diana began to feel a stranger in her own house, a house which she'd bought and that she was paying for through the film she made in Hollywood. She came back to England and everything was happening. And everything appealed to Diana about it. I mean, it was the place to be. Everybody was having a fantastic time.
My manager said, you're going to go to a party, and Diana Dors is going to be there and various people. He said, and she'll like you, and what we'll do, you'll pull her, and then we'll all get in the papers, and we'll all make a lot of money, she'll manage you. And I said, oh, don't be ridiculous. So anyway, I get to the party, and I never left the house. That was it. That was it from that night onwards. And it lasted 5 years. Shortly after we met, she went bankrupt. Funny enough, we went to a premiere to Sir With Love. And as we were walking in, someone jumped out of the crowd and gave me something, and the reporter said, what's that, what's that? So I said, oh, it's an autograph, we'll do it later. It was a writ for bankruptcy.
Dors financially, walked the walk. Dors always lived the glamorous life, and of course that must have cost money.
Everything had to be the very best. It always had to be the enormous house and the several cars and all the trappings. It was
you had to do it, didn't you?
Yeah, Hollywood and Berkshire.
Orchard Manor was the most beautiful house. She would always create something larger than life. She built this wonderful swimming pool there, and she built a special games room, which was really like a nursery for whichever man she happened to be with.
She created things for other people to play with. She made a remark to me one day that in her lifetime she'd probably spent enough money on liquor to retire on, and she herself didn't drink. And the same with the building of the magnificent swimming pool, which was for other people to get drunk and jump in. She didn't swim either.
Diana Dors, the perennial blonde bombshell, marries actor Alan Lake just 6 weeks after she first met him.
They were so much in love, Diana and Alan. They were soulmates that entwine, like they've got a bond and nothing will break that bond. And that's how they were with each other, you know. I can still see her now, I can still hear her now shouting at Alan. Alan, you stop it and act your age.
I'm going to move around you a bit now.
Are you doing?
You'll be a
You're
man.
going to circulate, are you?
Diana's acting career had really been going nowhere until Alan got offered a part at the Royal Court Theatre in a play called 3 Months Gone. They were really very keen to have her and Alan in the same show. And I think probably because Alan was in it, she decided to do it. And the word around was that Diana Dors on the stage. Can she act? Will she be any good? You know, she's on the stage with Jill Bennett, a wonderful actress. She'll be acted off the stage. And it came to the opening night, and when Diana came on, I mean, nobody in the audience had eyes for anybody else. Apart from being a wonderful actress, she had that extraordinary presence.
You're trespassing.
And you're poaching.
You're common.
You're genteel.
Coleman's wife.
Vicar's daughter.
I don't think, though, she was quite prepared for the roller coaster ride that she was going to be on with Alan, because none of us really knew the extent of his drinking. I mean, he was an alcoholic out of control. I remember going to the theatre with them sometimes, and if I was going up to order the drink, he'd say to me, when you get a vodka, put 4 in there, will you? And this is the last thing that she wanted, especially when they had Jason. She's got another little boy in Alan, but a little boy in a great big body.
Well, he was pretty wild, to say the least. I mean, he was very wild when he was drinking. To the point sometimes we actually had to leave the house because he got like completely wrecked. But I mean, he never got violent. He was very loud and kind of very boisterous, but he never actually really got violent.
She never had the break she should have got. And the work obviously was drying up, certainly film-wise. So there's only the cabaret circle left. You wouldn't get the greatest audience in the world there, you know. They're all half gone time you went on. They'd all be shouting out, you know, rather obscene things. And she didn't used to enjoy that. Couldn't wait to get out. She got Queenie's Castle, which she was very good in. But she should have got things before then. She should have been in the soap. She should have been, you know, I mean, she'd have been fabulous in EastEnders.
What seems to be the trouble, Jack?
It's Busy Lizzie. She's trying to get us chucked out again.
And this time I've every hope of succeeding. 5 more signatures, that's my target.
And you know what my target is, missus, if you don't shift? Your backside with my boot right up it.
One thing she was is she was always a grafter, and she would always go out and make the money. She'd never sit at home and moan about anything. She just got on with it.
On a wonderful day like today, I defy any cloud to appear in the sky, any raindrop to plop in my eye on a wonderful day like today.
Diana Dors' team. Meanness, the subject, meanness.
The Scotsman who was so mean he went next door to gas himself.
Alan stopped drinking, and it was fantastic. And I think then he felt tremendous remorse about what he'd put Diana through, because he really did love her. There's no question about that.
Well, it was like he became a completely different person. Doctors call it like a dry high, because if you've been drinking and you feel you're inebriated for so long, it's suddenly like you become hyperactive.
And of course, it was about that time that her career had a great resurgence. She did the Adamant video, which was wonderful. You know, it went to #1. And there she was, large as life, you know, Diana reborn again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Diana Dors.
We all know the Queen does a fantastic job, and I think so does Prince Charles. I mean, they work extremely hard. It's not a picnic. Believe it. In my own small way. Just a minute, Willie. This is my show. In my own small way.
Partly mine as well.
Well, I may not have a crown on, but I'm wearing regal purple tonight. Okay.
You'd make a rather good queen.
Thank you very much. I won't say the same about you.
She just kept reinventing herself and having new careers, and I think in a way, from being the sex symbol of the 50s and 60s, she became the sort of wonderful Mae West mom of the 80s.
If you need some help losing all that weight, keep watching, because Miss Diana Dors is with us again to show how easy it is to diet with Diana.
It was the very beginning days of TVAM, and one of the ideas was to bring in Diana Dors to do a dieting spot. And you knew the minute you heard that it would be a success, and it was a terrific success.
Yes, here we go.
She used to come in on the Friday, and then there would be this saga where she was meant to actually talk live about the diet that she was on, give the audience tips on what sort of food to cook for themselves, how to do it on a budget and things like that. Things about which Diana knew nothing at all, and you could tell.
Now then, we have cottage cheese and cucumber mousse. Doesn't it sound
is that this here?
Yes, isn't that?
None of us were really convinced that Diana ever was really on a diet. But she did used to lose about £1 a week. But it was because she took off jewellery. She wore huge jewellery. And she'd just take off a bracelet and a couple of rings, slip off her slippers, get on the scales, and hey presto, she'd lost £1.
It's great actually to diet in the summertime, because these are the sort of things you can sort of dip into all day.
Yes. The interviewing Diana about the slimming was always done by Nick and not by me. And I think after a couple of weeks, she sensed that I was uneasy about this, that maybe she didn't like me. And she took me to one side and said, "My dear, I am an older actress with a bit of a weight problem, and I would be very silly indeed to be in the same television frame as a young thing like you." And she actually said, "You'll understand one day." And I do now. But she bothered to take me aside and tell me. She was very generous.
Now, look, before we say goodbye...
What was sort of upsetting later is that by this time she was noticeably losing weight. And she must have known that it was because she was ill.
She never ever told me that she was ill. She didn't want people to worry about her. She didn't want people to be upset. She didn't want to burden anybody else with the fact that she was not well.
The last holiday that Di went on, it was the three of us. It was Alan, myself, and Dee. And she confided in me. And I didn't quite believe it. You know, I said, "Oh, don't be silly, you'll be all right. Dors, nothing can happen to Dors, you know." And she said, "No, I really think I haven't got long."
She hid it from me really until really the last minute. You know, I know she went up she had a couple of operations and stuff, but I just thought it was just kind of routine sort of women operation type things. And it wasn't until like the last sort of month or so that I knew how ill she was. So it was kind of a bit of a shock when she died, because it was totally unexpected.
I heard that she was in hospital, sorry, and I phoned Alan up, and he was heartbroken. They were soulmates,
He dealt with it until she died, and then he just wasted away. He lost loads of weight. He wasn't the same person at all. He became like a shell of his original self.
When Diana was still alive, the house was always lit, and it always looked grand. After she died, it reminded him so much of her. And when I went round to the house, the lights were out, and there was one light on. And I came in and went, now what's all this, Alan? He's really hurting badly. He's really hurting so much. I says, put some lights on, come on, put some music on. Why are you living like this? And, just one bulb. One day I drove over, and there's a policeman outside the gate. I know Alan was your friend, he says, but he's dead. I said, what? I says, what do you mean he's dead? He said he just put a shotgun into his mouth and pulled the trigger.
People, they say, oh, don't you think it was a cowardly way out, and he left you? And I said, I basically said, I don't blame him for what he did. He left me here on my own, but, which is kind of difficult to deal with, and I've had to deal with it since I was 15. I don't know. I still don't blame him for it.
He was so lonely by himself because she had so much strength. Diana Dors had so much strength.
There was a real respect for her. Here was a woman who had made it, who had been everywhere and really lived her life, who was a terrific actress, who'd been to Hollywood, who looked $1 million, still had charisma in bucket loads.
She never let the publicity pull wool over her eyes. And she was one of the straightest, nicest people I ever met. I'll never forget that.
It was just that indefinable something, what can you say? She was Diana Dors.